Hello and welcome. This video is brought to you by thestreamingadvisor.com. Tailor your entertainment for streaming. And what we're looking at here is the new Superbox 5X Max. This is the latest Android box from the people at Superbox. And what we're going to look at is its capabilities as an Android player and take a look at how the launcher works and just dive into some of the features. There's a lot of new stuff to see here. For instance, it's a Android 12 build, so you've got a nicer bit of settings, and the menus are just more modern. It's no longer using these kind of antiquated Android builds anymore. You'll notice that you can access all of the apps. The menu is like what you're going to find on on other things like Chromecast or an NVIDIA Shield, things like that. I like being able to dive in and easily access things like its installed apps as well as the device preferences. Here's where you're going to find things like the system update and information about the device overall. What's it running, how does it work, things along those lines. Now, what this is not, though, is an Android TV or Google TV box. This doesn't run either of those launchers, so if you get it expecting to find, what you would see with something like a Chromecast, you're not going to get that. But as far as all of the preferences, all of the controls, those are the same kind of thing that you would be dealing with otherwise. This is something that's designed for use on a TV screen and not a mobile Android sort of thing. I'm not sure why it has an input section, because this isn't a television, it's just a little box. You can change the look of things like the screensavers and your backgrounds, things like that. But most people just stick with the basic setup that it comes with in the first place. So, let's start exploring the rest of the setup here. Back out of this. And let's see. The folder here is going to bring up a section where this is like your stored things. You can access all of your memory, stuff like that. It has a great cleanup function. This is cleans out the the system's kind of like a refresh, like a getting rid of extra cache, things like that. It's got a nice speed tester built right in. This is fast.com from Netflix. We have 300 megabits up and down over here. This, with its wireless, is getting 160 megabits per second, which isn't bad. And my phones get stuff like that. So, that's a decent speed performance. It's very, very easy to delete things. You don't have to go deep into the settings. You just come right up here and delete what you need to. We'll show you that a little later. There it is. See? Just like that. Deletedfast.com. It has voice control. This is a newer feature. You do have to sync it, and it gives you on-screen directions. And notice the controller itself. I'm not putting that on camera. I think it's kind of boring. But the controller has play, pause, all of those buttons. It has the microphone. It has numerical buttons. And that actually comes into play a little later in this video because you can use those videos kind of as like quick launchers. So in order to pair it, you follow the directions on the screen. When you jump into this little keyboard section, this is what I'm talking about. This allows you to add apps to its quick launch section, and then whatever you choose will correspond with the buttons on the keyboard. The quick launch is helpful because as you start installing apps, you don't necessarily want to have to go to an app menu every time. So let's just add some things to the mix here. Kind of populate that home screen. Something that I like about this box is that it does support the TV-based apps. This isn't one where you're going to have a, an Air mouse or a wireless keyboard in order to use the apps. And you'll see later that the App Store on the device is the actual TV App Store and not the more, mobile-centric Google Play Store. It's still the Google Play Store, but, as it is. So once you have some things added in, you're going to jump in to that keyboard and just choose something. The speed tester we chose there, that's now number 3. We'll launch that by pressing it. See? So what's this going to show you is its basic system functions and its build. You see that it's listed as the SuperBox 5 Max. Here you can see the memory available, which is cool. It's got a decent amount of memory. It's not amazing. It's not a power PC. Here under the CPU, you can check out the quad core. You can see all of its cores and how they're working. It's just humming right along. I did find this box to be nice and fast as far as jumping in and out of apps. You notice it's got a good display, 60 megahertz refresh rate. That's great. It's not the top. It's more like 120. But 60 is as good as most streamers get. You kind of got to get into the higher end TVs to get something bigger than that anyway. If you don't have a higher end TV, it's not even going to make a difference. The main sections here, where the big blocks, they're really just kind of shortcuts to folders. You can assign things to live TV or on demand, so you can use anything you want. You can drop Pluto TV in there, you can drop Netflix for video on demand, things like that. The playback section is more along the lines of choosing, like if you want to choose a media player. Some people use Kodi, some people use Plex, that kind of thing. There's another little shortcut to the speed tester. That's actually the browser. The speed tester uses the browser. But that's set up to default as Google Chrome. Unfortunately, you can't use a lot of different browsers on here. But you can use one called Opera. But here I'm going to show you that the included browser, this is one of the only things on it that is not TV centric. You can kind of browse using it, but you have to use the little arrow. There's a little button that you press that's kind of like, it goes into mouse mode. But that's not the same thing as having an air mouse. You just have to actually use your directional keys in order to search. That was a bit of a letdown, considering that most of the on-screen apps here are more geared towards actually running a TV-based streamer. But here, this is the Opera browser. The Opera browser is set up to run very nicely with a TV. You still have to jump into the on-screen keyboard to do a search, but we're going to repeat the search for Batman. And you'll see the difference, I'm sure, immediately. So here's the same screen, but now you notice the little circle, and this can be controlled with the arrows, but it becomes your scroller. And you're probably familiar with this if you've seen things like Downloader or even the Silk browser for Amazon. I think that they would do really well to include this starting off because it's the right kind of browser for a system like this, but they don't. I also didn't find a way to change the browser out. I might need to dive into the settings more. It has its own app store as well as the Google Play Store. And if you find any other app stores you want to add, some people get Aptoid and things like that, you can add that as well and just have all of your app stores in one place. Here you see what I was telling you, that the App Store is the full TV App Store, though there are some things missing. And, that might be a red flag for some people. I found that using this App Store, you can't find Netflix and you can't find Disney Plus. My guess is that there might be some DRM issues, so keep that in mind. Sometimes, if a company doesn't have full permission to use certain things, it can cause problems, and I have to wonder if that's what's happening. But as it is, you definitely cannot add Disney Plus and Netflix through this app store, through the standards Google Play Store. On the other hand, there is a way to add it through their own app store. I love seeing the full categories here. It's much better than what I've seen in the past, where you have to use, like I said, a mobile app store that doesn't respond to a normal TV controller. So this feels much more modern and kind of more normal. You see that with this app store, you're going to get a lot of the kind of the mainline apps that you're used to in a streaming environment. Of course, you need subscriptions in order to access these things. And we're going to test the speaker here, Pluto TV. Yep, Pluto TV works. Disney Plus. But you see, when you ask it to do Disney Plus, it does not. It just can't find it. It even finds HBO Max, which doesn't exist anymore. That's kind of funny. But, if you want to ask it for things like the weather, or other apps, what's the weather right now?
Currently in Wendell, it's 46 degrees and mostly cloudy. Today, it'll be partly cloudy with a forecasted high of...
And you see, there it is.
Low of 26.
It'll even talk back to you, like a standard Google Assistant usually would. So, let's take a look at just using the App Store normally. Just going to go into this entertainment section here, and we'll install the NBC app. Keep in mind, this is the NBC app, not the Peacock app. If just in case you notice and say, oh, that doesn't look like what I'm used to. NBC still has an NBC app, even though all of their stuff is on Peacock. I keep waiting for them to change it over. Of course, the NBC app is, their content is free, though limited. But you see, it loads pretty quickly as far as downloading. We'll open it up. It launches quickly. And again, you'll see that this app is another app that's formatted for your TV and not for mobile. So again, you can use the regular remote, bounce around without any kind of additional hardware necessary. I know I'm kind of harping on this, but there have been so many of these little TV boxes from smaller companies that were next to impossible to get around unless you had an Air Mouse, something, some sort of a extra item, that you'd have to buy separately. Aside from some third-party apps that I don't want to get into on screen, that's the Superbox. And if you want to take a look, you can get it from their website. Is it worth the money? I don't know. As far as Android boxes go, there's lots of Android boxes out there that won't cost you as much as a Superbox. But as a bonus, this one is unlocked, so it means that you don't have to go through any trouble to add other apps from, wherever you're looking for them in order to, access different content. I hope you found this helpful. If you did, please subscribe, share this video with your friends, and as always, I'm Ryan Downey, the Streaming Advisor. Stream on, my friends.